Welcome. I'm Susan Belekewicz, Executive Director of the General Society of Mayflower Descendants, also known as the Mayflower Society. It's my pleasure to introduce Governor General Jane Hurt, the 35th Governor General. Jane also holds the distinction of being just the 5th woman to be elected to this position since our society's founding in 1897.
We thank you for the opportunity to allow us to share our two iconic landmarks in Plymouth, the Mayflower Society House and the Mayflower Meetinghouse. The Society's education mission is to tell the Mayflower story and its importance to the founding of America. The restoration and preservation of these two treasures helps us to continue to tell that story. With over 30,000 members, we welcome visitors year-round. Founded in 1897, the Mayflower Society has been headquartered in Massachusetts for over a century. This is our beautiful, historic house museum, the Mayflower Society House. It overlooks Plymouth Harbor, the ship Mayflower, and the historic Plymouth Rock.
And now, former Governor General George Garmany will tell you about the Mayflower Society House's history.
First, to understand that the house was square. It was not white the way you see today. It was made of wood that was treated to look like stone. Then years later, they replaced and added stone features. Stone was regarded as a sign of the wealth and a status symbol for the house. But then in subsequent years, the house fell into disrepair. And during the 1930s, completely vacant. There was nobody living here. A strong woman named Adelaide Newell Meek, who was herself a member of the Mayflower Society, actually saved this house from being destroyed. She mounted a campaign to stop a demolition order that was placed on the house that would have converted this whole property into a parking lot, if you can imagine. And then in 1939, at the height of the Great Depression, the Mayflower Society began the steps that would allow to raise the funds and create the general support for the purchase of this house. That dream came true. The Mayflower Society purchased it within weeks of the bombing on Pearl Harbor. When the war broke out, when World War II broke out, the Society allowed the American Red Cross to use this facility free of charge throughout the time of the war years. Then after the war years, the Society began the restoration process to put the house in the form and the quality that you see today.
So George, what's the connection, or is there a connection to Mayflower Pilgrims?
Sure. The house was originally built in 1754 for Edward Winslow, who was the great-grandson of Pilgrim Edward Winslow. Originally, the house was much closer to the street. And then after the American Revolution, it passed through a number of families' hands, and eventually, at about the turn of the 20th century, it was bought by Charles Willoughby of Chicago. The Willoughbys envisioned this as a grand summer home. They engaged architect Joseph Everett Chandler to enlarge it, add a lot of the nice features, and move it 30 feet back from the road from where it had been before. And then after the Mayflower Society acquired it in the 1940s, it was opened to the public for tours. Come on in, let me show you around.
So George, what are some of your favorite stories about the Mayflower House?
One of my favorite stories involves Lydia Jackson, whose family owned the house at the time. She, right in this parlor, married the poet and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson. She had met him at a lecture that he gave on transcendentalism right at the spot where the Mayflower Meetinghouse is today. Another interesting story that's particularly interesting to me because I'm a physician involves her brother. His name was Dr. Charles Jackson. He was one of the discoverers of the medical uses of ether. He used to conduct experiments on himself right here in this parlor. And the chair that he used is now at Pilgrim Hall Museum, just a few blocks from here.
Well, thank you, George. Those are great stories. And if you want to learn more great stories about the house, please come to America's Hometown and come and take a tour. But right now, we're going to take a walk 2 blocks up the street to Town Square, where the Mayflower Meetinghouse is located. We are now in the sanctuary of the Mayflower Meetinghouse. The Meetinghouse was donated to the Society by the First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church during former Governor General Lee Filson's term in office. Lee has been instrumental in raising funds to restore this beautiful landmark. Lee, why is the Meetinghouse important to the Mayflower story?
Oh, well, Susan, the Mayflower story happened here. This is where it all began back in 1621 when they built their first meeting house. But since then, there have been 5 buildings. This is the 5th. And it was built literally as a memorial to the Pilgrims. So that makes it especially important. And now that it's going to be our education center, it allows us to tell the Mayflower story right where it happened.
So tell me about the history of the Society with this building.
Well, the Society's got a very good history with this building. They helped raise the money to build it. It was finished in 1898, or roundabouts. It took them 3 or 4 years to build it. The Society helped raise the money for this building. They went to churches all over America asking them to give, and they did. Guess how much it cost to build it?
How much?
$9,000 for this beautiful landmark. It was $9,000. But at any rate, the member societies also did a lot more. For instance, they donated the Tiffany stained glass window. They also did the altar and the pulpit. They donated a lot to the building. Every time we come to Plymouth to open our Congress, it opens in this building. And so this is a very special place and a reverent place to Mayflower descendants.
So now tell us a little bit more about the restoration project.
Well, the restoration project was very important. The First Parish Church very sadly turned it over and donated it to the Mayflower Society because they simply they couldn't raise enough funding in order to save this building. And it literally was at the point of needing to be saved. The windows literally that we had replaced and redone, we couldn't put back in the structure because the structure wouldn't hold it. There were leaks everywhere. The roof was failing. And so it became very, very important for us to start immediately.
And so tell us how the project is progressing.
Well, that's a very good story. Right now, the exterior is completely finished, and it is finished because of the generosity of the town of Plymouth, who gave us Community Preservation Act funds in order to complete it. They gave us $2.618 million to do that, and it is done, and we're so grateful to them. And now it's our turn. We're now starting on the interior. We're starting to do everything that we can to get it ready, which will cost about another $10 million. We're doing a before and after in the sanctuary so donors can see that. We're adding an elevator for ADA accessibility. We're adding a new entrance, a gift shop, a new film, and then as we raise money, we'll continue finishing it in phases.
Well, this is so exciting, Lee. Thank you so much. Well, I hope you've enjoyed learning about the General Society of Mayflower Descendants and 2 of the most beautiful historic landmarks in Plymouth. We hope you'll come to visit us soon in America's hometown. And now, a final word from Governor General Hurt.
Thank you for your time today. The Mayflower Pilgrims were the first to bring families to America. They wrote the Mayflower Compact. They maintained a half-century of peace with the neighboring Wampanoags. And our Thanksgiving holiday is a symbol of their harvest feast with the native tribe in 1621. We hope you'll come visit us soon in America's hometown. Remember, the Mayflower Pilgrims are America's family. Thank you.